Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com here to talk about WWE WrestleMania Backlash on this fine Sunday evening, as we have had for the past several shows here. My usual partner in crime, John Clark, not with us tonight. He's still recovering from his appendectomy. He said he's hoping to be back with us, hopefully the Tuesday show, the NXT post show on Tuesday. So I'll be by myself again tomorrow for Raw. But we're here to talk about WrestleMania Backlash. So before we do, just want to remind you all this show, like everything we do here is available on all of our platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. Please leave a like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. So tonight, we had WrestleMania Backlash. And as we've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, obviously the build for this show was not the best. I think a lot of the stories were, I'll say it, I thought they were pretty lacking. And I was not as excited for the show as I may have wanted to be, and I think that was kind of the sentiment that was going around. But as we've seen several times here, I'll say in recent years, in a general sense, a lot of time when you have kind of a lackluster build, WWE still delivers a great show, and I think that was definitely the case tonight. Some really good matches. I really enjoyed, I would say, that the majority of the show. 6 matches on the card, and on paper that seemed like we would be in for a fairly short and sweet show. And unfortunately, in some ways, they dragged it out in a lot of ways. But I think like the majority of the matches delivered, I enjoyed them. DJ says what the show was pretty decent. It was worth watching. I think it was definitely worth watching. I think all the matches really delivered just quality in-ring action, and some of them had kind of meaningful consequences. Some of them seemingly wrapped up, WrestleMania feuds. It is WrestleMania Backlash. We definitely had a lot of WrestleMania rematches here tonight. But as usual, hopefully that means that kind of moving forward here, we'll be getting new feuds, kind of new matchups and whatnot, and new stories going forward. So, this is definitely a good chance to kind of just wrap up WrestleMania season in that sense. And that's what WrestleMania Backlash really is these days. But again, I feel like it's a good show, even beyond some of these limitations or reasons for concern. But Eddie says, we've seen this a lot here, but he says WWE knows how to put on a good show if they want to. And I have to agree with that. It feels like, and it's, a lot of the time it feels like they do kind of put on a good show with the premium live events, even if it's a lackluster build. And then you kind of, don't get necessarily that impression when you're watching the weekly TV, but I digress. Anesha points out she doesn't think some things are over. No, I do think some of these things will continue to play out here. Some of these feuds probably are not over. And someone tweeted about that, I think, during the Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes match. They're like, oh, they might do a third one. And I tweeted back, I was like, there aren't any feuds here that I really want to see more of. And that may sound harsh, but two WrestleMania rematches were the kind of the theme of the night. I'm like, none of these matches, they're all good matches, but do I really want to see it a third time? Not necessarily. Nesh points out Cody and Seth and Ronda and Charlotte. We'll talk about Ronda and Charlotte a little later. I do want to start with Cody and Seth because that was the match that opened the show. I thought this was very, very good. Now, I have to admit, at WrestleMania, I was working. I was watching the show, but that was right when the news broke that Cody had officially signed. That was when his interview with Variety came out. So I was working the news desk, so I was writing that up. I was watching the show. It was on in the background, so I didn't really get to watch that match actively. I heard very good things from what I saw. It seemed like a pretty good match. I never got a chance to go back and actually watch it, so I didn't really have a full bar to kind of compare it to. So, but I did definitely think that this match was likely going to be one of the best ones of the night. Cody and Seth are great, and I was glad I got the chance to actually really sit down and watch this one, focus on it. And I liked it a lot. Definitely a pretty slow going start here, but it definitely picked up in the end. We had a pedigree. We had the kickouts from the Crossroads. I like this a lot. In some ways, I thought, okay, if they're going to continue this, Seth really should get the win to keep it even and then set up a natural reason for that third match. That didn't happen. Cody won. It was definitely a very good match. Nelson says it's a great way to start the show. Dennis says it was a good match as well. Yeah, I liked it a lot. That was very good. But Eddie points out here, yes, if we do continue here, very likely it will be inside Hell in a Cell. That is the next premium live event. That is less than a month away. That will be Sunday, June 5th. So only a couple weeks away from tonight. So yeah, Cody won, so he's got 2 wins over on Seth Rollins here. So I have to think that if they do a rematch for Hell in a Cell between these two, it'll probably be a little more personal. We already started to kind of get there with Cody, Seth insulting Dusty, Cody's dad. I have to think we might kind of get a little more of that. Rhodes might accept a rematch if Seth does something like really drastic, really insulting, really despicable. I don't know what that would be, but I do think that would probably be the only real logical way to get a third match out of this. I mean, Seth lost the Cody WrestleMania. Cody was the mystery opponent. That makes sense. Seth wants rematch because he wasn't prepared. That is a very good reason for a rematch. But now the third match, again, I like when things make sense. So I'm hoping they find a way to do that. But Brian, again, agreeing that it was a very nice opener here. I definitely agree. And on DJ's question, and I kind of had a similar thought. So he's asking if we think Cody's going heel. He says that Cody does better with his character, a heel character, based on his earlier WWE career. So he's wondering, does WWE do like a double swerve, maybe, and then do that for the third chapter of this? I don't necessarily think they're going to do that. I definitely think the money here is both short-term and long-term, at least, relatively long-term. The money here would be with Cody as a babyface. The story that as soon as he came back, he wants to win the title for his dad. That is very much a babyface thing. But for me, in some ways, like I couldn't help but think it tonight. Like he just seems like a really natural heel, and I thought that in AEW a lot. But that was when he had people booing him, and at best, very, very divisive reactions. Now he's in WWE. Now, by and large, he's getting cheered by practically everybody at the live shows, at least. But the way he kind of carries himself, and just like, I don't know, I still kind of had that like impression of him, I guess. So in some ways, like I was like rooting for Seth in some ways, at least in the story. But of course, Cody has said this time and time and time again. Nash points out, Cody said on his TV show, Roads to the Top, that he does not want to be a heel. He's made that very, very clear. So yeah, I definitely think if he ever does turn heel, it is not going to be anytime soon. I definitely think here he's going to be chasing the title. Whether he's going to wrap this up with Seth at Hell in a Cell or not, I think he's going to keep being a babyface and doing that. And again, maybe that was kind of my individual view of like, oh, it's a little hard for me to kind of cheer him, maybe just because I still have that association with AEW and how he was perceived in AEW, all that stuff. But DJ elaborates, asking if I think Rollins would turn. No, I think Rollins, again, I think he's gonna do something like super despicable to like not even become more of a heel, because he's already a big heel. But I'm saying like just do something really evil, really nasty. I don't know. And again, I don't know what that would be. But I don't think he's going to turn face, at least not right now. Maybe after he loses to Cody again, because he's been a heel for quite a while now. So I could easily see him freshening up here. But I do think the longer-term play, Cody's babyface, going to chase that title, whenever that might be. We'll talk about that later in the show. We talk about Roman Reigns, the world champion. But that's just predicting here that Cody will take the title from Roman, in this case, maybe the WWE title at least. And I think that there's a lot of fairness in that. I mean, I think whenever it might be, I don't know. I do think Cody's probably going to get a world title here by beating Roman. Makes sense. Again, whoever does beat Roman, it's going to have to be a big deal. And Cody Rhodes, it's a big deal. So we'll wait and see on that one. We'll talk about Roman a little bit more later. But in the theme of WrestleMania rematches here, we had Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins start the show. That was the first of 3 in a row of WrestleMania rematches, because then we had Bobby Lashley and Omos, or Omos, whatever you want to say. This time around, Bobby defeated Omos at WrestleMania for the first time. Now, Omos had MVP in his corner, and that definitely played had a big impact on the outcome of this match. DJ says Omos's win was the biggest shock of the night. I would agree. I would agree in a lot of ways. In terms of just general surprise, it's like, yeah, I mean, But that being said, I thought it was the right call. They're very clearly trying to build Omos into this big, if not a top guy, a guy you can really take seriously, a guy that can be used as we don't need to classify main eventer or not, but someone that you can really take seriously, someone that could be a legitimate threat to really anybody. Lashley beat him at WrestleMania, and I didn't even think that was necessarily the right call. But now, having MVP in his corner definitely made sense to have Omos get the win. I think this was almost his big win in his career. I mean, yeah, he won the Raw Tag Team titles, AJ Styles. So at the very least, the biggest win of his singles career. Definitely a big win to defeat a former WWE champion, Bobby Lashley, with the direct interference from MVP. And the MVP hit Lashley with his cane and directly helped Omos win. I have to think we might get another rematch here. I don't know if it's going to go all the way to Hell in a Cell. That's still, call it like 4 weeks away or so. And this has already been going on for well, I mean, but just over a month now. So this is one I could see getting extended to Hell in a Cell, but they definitely, at least I hope, they're not going to drag all of these matches out to Hell in a Cell. So I know with the MVP thing, I could see them dragging out a little bit more. I don't know if we get all the way there to Hell in a Cell, but definitely a big one here. I will also say, I saw this going around. This was probably one of almost his best showings as an in-ring competitor, especially in a singles match. Brian says almost was impressive. Clearly his best match since his debut. I would agree. This was a competitive match. I would say we got to see him do more from just in a general sense of like he wasn't just doing your typical big man stuff. This was a match. He had to like actually tell a story, whereas like a lot of his tag team matches, he was doing a lot of, just your typical big man stuff. Like AJ would do the work, and he would tag in and do some power moves. But like this was, now in general, and especially here tonight, he's on his own. He's got to really, hold his own. And with a quality superstar like Bobby Lashley, definitely a good showing for him. But Eddie points out a one way to continue this would be to have Bobby Lashley feud with MVP and or face MVP. That's what he said. I think a couple weeks ago, he said, I want to wants to hurt MVP for betraying him. I think that would make sense. And he just says he doesn't see the match happening at Hell in a Cell. I think almost is too early in his career for a Hell in a Cell match. I mean, I think that's fair. I don't know if you mean like the importance of the Cell match, or in terms of maybe the demands of doing one as a performer. But I think that there's some fairness in that either way. And again, I'm not quite sure. We're going to see this match a third time, maybe on Raw. Could very well happen, or if I might see this transition to Bobby Lashley versus MVP a little more directly. I think that'd be fun. I mean, there's a lot of story to be told there. Whereas this feud has been interesting. It's been Bobby Lashley versus Omos, but it's actually feuding with MVP. It's a little bit of an interesting little wrinkle there. But Dennis points out, Omos getting better and better with a lot of help and guidance from MVP. He can be unstoppable. I think there's a lot of fairness in that. Both, I would say, in the ring and out of the ring. MVP, very good mentor, very good manager, a very good mouthpiece, just a very good asset all around. So a good pairing, at least so far, and especially on the show tonight, almost got a big win. So it's a winning combo so far. Bit chimes in saying he really enjoyed Backlash. I mean, yeah, we talked about it earlier. Overall, pretty solid show. I really don't have all that many complaints, and that feels like a rarity talking about WWE these days. But it was interesting to me that you had your three of your multiple WrestleMania rematches to start the show here. You had Cody and Seth, Bobby Lashley and Omos, and number 3. Actually, I think we had 4 in a row. Yeah, 4 in a row. Number 3 was AJ Styles versus Edge. And this one I was pretty excited for. I thought the WrestleMania match wasn't quite as good as I wanted it to be. And you think AJ Styles Edge on paper, that should be a very, very good match. I'm a big fan of both guys, and in some ways, I guess the WrestleMania match was a little underwhelming because I thought it would be a lot better than it was. And maybe part of that because I wasn't super into Edge's heel persona. I've come around on it a little bit. I still think it's a little campy in some ways. I think it's a little goofy, a little campy, just so dark and it's kind of riffing on the Brood and stuff like that. So it's been a little, I don't know. But I'm coming around a little bit, and maybe I'm less directly opposed to it now. So it's there's an Edge match, I'm more able to say, okay, what's the match like? Rather than doing, I don't like this gimmick, so therefore I don't like the match. I'm loosening up a little bit on that. I'm also a little more receptive to Edge's new theme song. I still miss the old one, but I'm kind of vibing with the new one a little bit more because it makes sense for his character. So shout out to them for that theme song change, because it's a bold move to change a theme song after 20 years. So I'm coming around to that as well. Edge wore purple pants tonight. He had the right idea. A bunch of people rock purple gear tonight. I'm always a big fan of that myself. Brian says AJ Styles versus Edge here was a nice match. Of course, we had a big reveal in the end. I'll talk about that in a minute. So hard fought match. 2 pros doing what they do. Two seasoned legitimate veterans. 2 of the best in the game today. Put on a good match. I would say in a lot of ways it was better than the WrestleMania match in the first place. I enjoyed it more, and I guess I was a little more receptive to it. Again, I'm not being so down on the story. Whereas I'm not saying I really enjoyed the story heading into this one, but I guess it's seasoned a little bit more, it's marinated a little bit more. So I was less down on it in the first place. So during the match, Damian Priest comes out, distracts AJ Styles. Now Priest was banned from ringside after Styles beat him on Raw. Finn Balor comes down. He attacks Damian Priest. There are some people that thought Balor would join Judgment Day at just stable tonight. That didn't happen. A masked individual or hooded individual attacked AJ Styles and helped Edge win. And they came in the ring after the match. They turned out to be Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley, former Raw Women's Champion, is now clearly a member of Judgment Day. She dyed her hair black. She posed with Edge after the match, and then that was reported weeks ago by Fightful Select that Ripley and also Ciampa, or I should say Tommaso Ciampa at the time, as he was known, were like kind of being pitched to join this group. Don't know about Ciampa yet, but Ripley pretty clearly joined the group tonight, and I think that's a good thing for her. I think she's definitely had, in some ways, an underwhelming run on Raw recently. She was a women's title champion. She won the Raw Women's title last year, but ever since then, it feels like it's been a little, underwhelming in some ways. So anybody working with Edge here, it's a great way to just become more legitimate. I mean, Edge is a star. Like there's no doubting that. Again, I wasn't the biggest fan of his gimmick. Still not. But at least I'm able to say, okay, it's good for someone like Rhea Ripley, Damon Priest as well. Like his gimmick was really, really not working so well before he joined with Edge, and now at least working with Edge, and now they've like provided a little more of a justification for it. I think it's working for him, and he's better off now than he was in some ways. And I think that'll be true for Rhea as well. I think her babyface run was pretty underwhelming in some ways, but now as a heel, I think we could see a different side of her, so I think that's beneficial for her as well. So I think this could be good for her, and not to like jump the gun, but in some ways, I think we should see potentially Rhea maybe be the one to dethrone Bianca Belair, and that seems pretty crazy to say here today. It's May now. I don't know if it'll be SummerSlam, maybe like one of the fall shows. Like if I don't know if it's a Survivor Series is too long, but if this heel run goes well, that feels like a pretty compelling feud at least. Bianca Belair, big babyface versus Rhea Ripley, dark, evilish heel. I think that'd be pretty interesting. Dennis says Rhea fits in good as a heel. Yeah, I think she's literally the nightmare, and now Edge is like dark, stable, like the Brood. Like I was saying earlier, it is a pretty natural fit in that sense. So I think she's a good fit for it. When that was first supported, it made sense to me that like this should be joining the group, because we were just talking about she's been kind of spinning her wheels a little bit, and I think this could be a great way to freshen her up. Nestor agreeing that Rhea is better as a heel here. So Zachary asking what I think of Edge and Judgment Day. I mean, overall, like I said, wasn't the biggest fan at first. Coming around a little bit. But like again, some of the segments are still a little goofy. Like they had the one thing, the backstage where the lights were flickering, and then they had the one match with AJ and Damon where the lights like turned off and they're just gone, and the match ended. That was a pretty aggravating. Is like at least make it make sense. Like I don't know. And some of the promos are a little campy to me. I guess a little too like. Just kind of goofy dark rather than like actually compelling dark. Like I really like the House of Black in AEW. I think Malachi Black is doing great stuff with that. This feels very similar to that. But in some ways, it doesn't quite feel like it's hitting for me. But Nesha, wise as always, it says it's new. Let's see where it goes. And especially now with Rhea joining the group, it's definitely like new. We're going to wait and see how she fits in. The justification for her joining the group. I liked how they justified Damien joining the group. So, I'm hopeful that'll be explained tomorrow night on Raw, and we'll kind of go from there. But for the match, kind of the match lost the feud here. Again, pretty clear. This could be one of those feuds that's not ending here. Rhea Ripley directly interfering to cost AJ Styles. Another reasonable / logical reason for a rematch. So this could easily drag out to Hell in a Cell. Could it be in Hell in a Cell match? Could it be a tag team match in Hell in a Cell? Could it? I don't know. Eddie says it could be an 8-person tag team match, a 6-person tag team match, or just a Hell in a Cell with AJ and Edge. At this point, I think a Hell in a Cell between the two would make sense, because 2 matches in a row now, WrestleMania and WrestleMania Backlash, Styles has had someone interfere and cost him the match. So I think that would make sense. For a tag team match, I think of Edge, Damien. If Ciampa joins the group, that makes sense. Otherwise, right now it's Edge, Priest, and Ripley. So I don't know, maybe a mixed person 6-man. I don't know about that. Let alone an 8-person. I don't know how that would work. But on the one side, you've got AJ, Finn Balor. You could probably throw in some other Raw babyface potentially. Like I don't know, doesn't really make a lot of sense right now. But like they had Ciampa attack Mustafa Ali 2 weeks in a row. So maybe if they have Ciampa join the Judgment Day, maybe they'll do that. I don't know. But I don't know. I definitely like the idea of Hell in a Cell. I think I'm old fashioned. I like blowing off big bitter feuds with Hell in a Cell matches. So pretty much more than any other feud on this card, that one makes sense to me. You know, Edge took it out of like the attacking with a chair, and that's been going on. And now you've got new members of Judgment Day here, so they're keeping it dynamic at least. So you know, this is one of those feuds that I'm at least okay with it continuing, but. We'll see. It kind of depends because AJ just finally now, I think it was last week on Raw, got Finn Balor's help. So now with Rhea Ripley and potentially more members of Judgment Day, AJ's going to need more help. So I don't know about that. Joseph wonders why not put Mustafa Ali in Judgment Day. I mean, they could. We were talking about this on the last Raw show. Like, I don't know how invested they are in really like doing something with Mustafa Ali. Like, they brought him back. And in some ways, this sounds very cynical, and I don't mean it to. I feel like they're trying to like get something out of him and like literally use him. And again, that sounds cold, but like rather than letting him sit at home, the man is under contract. So like I imagine they would want to use him while they got him. And in this case, so far it's been with this feud with the Miz and Theory, and they're trying to make him this like lovable underdog kind of thing. Could he join Judgment Day eventually? Sure. I mean, anything's possible. Like, why not? Yeah, if he would have every reason to. They could very easily say, like, oh, this is the guy that's been overlooked and deprived of opportunities, all these things. I mean, I think that writes itself in some ways. But I think right now, we just had Rhea Ripley join. I think Ciampa would be the next best pick in my mind in terms of like who could join in the next few weeks. But I like the idea of Mustafa Ali. I think that'd be, again, anybody joining Force with Edge here. I think that's beneficial because Edge is a Hall of Famer. Like that just is naturally beneficial. So I like the idea, but I think there might be some more fitting, new additions to this group here. So DJ points out that I don't remember exactly when it was, but Pat McAfee got a lot of flack tonight, or at least a lot of conversation going on social media when he directly mentioned The Fiend on commentary. He said, like, is that The Fiend in the front row? And that's pretty clearly a big no-no. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, was released by WWE a little less than a year ago. That was last July. I haven't seen him since. And, pretty standard company line, not to mention people that got released on TV, unless there's a very specific reason for it, if it's part of a storyline or something. I think Liv Morgan cut a promo at one point about how her friends were at least gone. Like she referenced that the Riot Squad was released, but this was a direct mention of The Fiend. I admittedly, I didn't even hear it myself. I heard and like saw the buzz online about it afterwards. I'm like, there are worse things you could say in commentary. I'm sure Vince McMahon probably not so happy about that. But more weird than anything, it's like, oh, you just mentioned The Fiend. Like, that's weird. Oh, and also I miss Bray Wyatt. Like, I wish he was still here. Like, I don't really know what more there is to it than that. Do I think Pat McAfee's going to get in trouble for it? Maybe nothing more than a slap on the wrist. Like, I think he's way too good at his job to actually get her in trouble. To get him in trouble. DJ points out that Liv Morgan didn't mention her friends by name. That she just said, like, oh, my friends aren't here anymore. But Pat McAfee directly named The Fiend tonight. And that's fair. That's definitely an exception. Do I think he'll get in trouble? No. I think he might get a talking to. I don't think it's anything all that serious. Because admittedly, like, at the end of the day, they did work there, and if you saw someone like wearing, I don't know why, if you saw someone wearing a Fiend mask or something, or someone that maybe looked like the Fiend out of the side of his eye, like, I don't know. I feel like Pat McAfee, he just says things like what he's on commentary. He is just going. He does not care, and like he doesn't care about getting in trouble. I think that's what makes him so good. Like he'll say things, have fun with it. He's a very fun, energetic personality, and that is risky in some ways. Sometimes he will say things, not just this, but other things. I remember he was talking on the Pat McAfee show, and he said something that Vince McMahon. He said like that Vince was upset with him about something. And he didn't really get in trouble. It was just like, don't do that again. Now, unfortunately, Pat also said, I think like a week or two ago, he said the Rabid Wolverine, one referencing Butch, and that was of course Chris Benoit's nickname. That's definitely more. I think that's more frowned upon than anything, because that's not exactly something you want to bring up on TV if you're WWE these days. But like the Fiend, like, people were talking about it. I'm sure come tomorrow that'll just be in the rear view. Again, at worst, I would say probably just a talking to, but I don't see much more to it than that, honestly. But a fun little moment on the broadcast tonight. But after we had Edge and AJ Styles, we had, of course, the I Quit match with Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. Now, this feud I've talked about on the SmackDown show. Have not been really feeling this feud. Was not enjoying it throughout the road to WrestleMania. Didn't really enjoy the WrestleMania match. Was not thrilled to see it continuing. And then I was talking with Robert on the SmackDown show this week. I was like, I have a feeling that it's going to continue through to Hell in a Cell. And I don't know about that. I don't know. So I Quit match, very hard hitting. We had kendo sticks, we had chairs, we had submission holds. They brawled in the crowd. Both women refused to say I quit. Ronda called Charlotte a bitch. They were brawling around, going over the place. Ronda took a couple of nasty bumps, like she threw herself into the security barricade. All this stuff. It was a very hard hitting match. Eddie says it was brutal. I'm assuming it was a hard hitting match with a lot of bumps and stuff. They're not brutally bad. I thought this was it was better than the WrestleMania match. I think it would have been better if I enjoyed, for me at least, it would have been better if I enjoyed the story more. I didn't enjoy the promos. I didn't enjoy just the general kind of the booking. I don't know. If you feel differently, I respect you, obviously. We don't have to agree here. Of course, I should have said this earlier. Sidebar, Nestor pointing out, Happy Mother's Day, everybody. This is now, it's May 8th. Happy Mother's Day. Hopefully you all celebrate with your mothers today. Ronda, of course, is a mother. Becky Lynch is a mother. She was not on the card, but plenty of WWE stars are mothers, of course, and let alone fans. And Nestor, you've pointed out several times on the Raw show that you've been happy to that you were happy to have the chance to watch wrestling today on Mother's Day. So there you go. Hopefully this show lived up to your expectations. But a very, very hard hitting match. I would say this match in general exceeded my expectations as someone that wasn't really enjoying the feud all that much. But in the end, Charlotte said Happy Mother's Day as a little shot at Ronda having kids, and Ronda got fired up by that, and she locked in her cross arm breaker through the chair. And Charlotte refused to say I quit, and Ronda's like, oh, I hope you would say that, and she really started kind of really wrench her arm, almost going to break it, and finally Charlotte said I quit. So Ronda Rousey, new SmackDown Women's Champion. There you go. And now the question is, I think no matter what, I thought if Ronda won, I thought we would get Hell in a Cell for June. Again, it's only a couple weeks away. But then late in the same show, we had WWE report that Charlotte suffered a fractured radius. And so that would seemingly suggest she'll be out of action for a little bit. And then Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful reported that Charlotte is not actually hurt, that she be taking some time off. That is planned. Now she's reported. I think she mentioned. I don't know if she mentioned, or it may have been specifically in June. I know she's getting married this summer, and Eddie says she's getting married in June, so she'll be taking time off. Fightful's report says she would be taking time off, and they were aware of that. So in that case, I don't know if we're getting this. I wouldn't think we'd be getting this at Hell in a Cell. And again, that's only a couple weeks away. I don't know how long Charlotte would be out if that is the case, and maybe she should be coming back for SummerSlam. And honestly, if that's the case, I think that's preferable in some ways, because again, I didn't want this to go 3 shows in a row because I wasn't loving it in the first place. But Brian says it's a great match, so he's happy Ronda won. DJ says Ronda deserves it. Charlotte was a great champ. She'll definitely get the title back one day. I mean, of course. Charlotte's going to get all the titles. All right, she'll be fine. She'll come back and get a title. Undoubtedly, at some point, not too far from now. Okay, Josh pointed out that the Fiend thing was during this match. That just happened to see a fan in a mask. Josh, we were just talking about that about Pat referencing the Fiend. I forgot when that was, but yes, that was the Quit match there. But yes, Ronda won. Just pointing out that right now, at least today, there are no very clear challengers for Ronda. If Charlotte does take time off, I think I would agree. There's nobody right here today that I would say yes, they should feud with Ronda right now. I saw they announced the thing about Charlotte. I was like, well, who would feud with Ronda? Like Lacey Evans? Maybe. I think that's possible. Eddie says that Ronda versus Shayna Baszler would be a good one-off. I think that'd be good, but I would want more than a one-off. I think they used to be 2 of the 4 horsewomen of MMA. They're friends. There's definitely a story they could tell there. Now, granted, the way they've booked so far, I would say, yeah, or that Shayna's been booked, it feels, that she might not be, at that level to face Ronda Rousey, let alone at let's say Hell in a Cell. DJ points out maybe it's Ronda and Sonya. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. I could see that as well. They had a little bit of a mini feud back when, right after Ronda returned, they had the tag team match Elimination Chamber. I think that's possible, although they're seemingly kind of backpedaling from Sonya as an official. So I don't know how they might kind of make that work necessarily. I don't know. Otherwise, beyond those two, I thought of Lacey Evans because she just returned on SmackDown. And I don't know about that because I'd prefer they build her up a little bit more before facing Ronda to give us any reason to think she could beat Ronda. DJ says Ronda and Sasha. That'd be fun. But I mean, I think they could do a champion match right now. But Sasha, as of right here today, is one half of the women's tag team champions. They'll be defending the titles on SmackDown this week. So maybe we'll see what happens there. Eddie, I thought of this as well. Eddie says maybe we'll get Ronda and Bayley if Bayley returns. I think that'd be fun. She is owed a title match technically. She was going to challenge Bianca Belair last year before she got hurt. I think that makes sense. Next one, I thought you could do Lacey. No, she's saying Lacey, it's too soon. You could do Naomi, the flip side of Sasha's tag team with Naomi there. I think that's possible as well. I think they're all good options, especially if it's like call it a one-off or maybe two one-offs. Maybe do one for Hell in a Cell, one for Money in the Bank, and then you do Charlotte again for SummerSlam. I think that makes sense. Eddie points out Bayley is the only member of the four horsewomen that Ronda has not fought yet. Makes sense. I think that's definitely a big money match. Next says we want Bayley versus Becky. I think I would agree. That's definitely a match that I think a lot of people want to see as well. Down the road, DJ says let's do Ronda and Bianca at SummerSlam. I'm assuming he means SummerSlam. Like you said, he wrote SS, so I'm assuming SummerSlam could also be Survivor Series. It could be in that case. Sitting here today, they're both the champions, so they could do champion versus champion of the brands for Survivor Series. That's still a ways away, so who even knows when we'll be? That's called 6 months from now, essentially. So a lot could change here from now to then. But DJ and SummerSlam. I mean, I feel like unless one loses the title, I don't know if they would necessarily do that. Unless they want to unify the women's titles, I don't know if they're going to do that. They're not even at this point seemingly going to unify the tag titles anymore, unfortunately. But DJ asks, what's we need to talk about most in the next 4 weeks? Hell in a Cell, Rich Strike's Derby win, or Rousey's first SC title win. Most talked about in general. I mean, okay, this is gonna sound bad. I mean, I don't know how big the Kentucky Derby is in a general sense. I know it's a thing. I know it's popular. I know it's obviously on TV. I know it's important. It's very prestigious. But if you're talking about like general buzz, general like excitement, general chatter on social media, I would assume Rousey's title win, and especially, I think there's enough crossover of WWE fans and then Rousey's fans from her time in the UFC. I mean, I'm biased. Obviously, this is a wrestling show. Like, if you ask someone that covers the Kentucky Derby and stuff, their answer might be different. But DJ means sports related. I mean, the next 4 weeks. I mean, honestly. You gave me the two options for the next 4 weeks. I would say AEW Double or Nothing. Again, I'm biased, but that would probably be more buzzworthy in my mind. I'm not trying to knock the Derby. It's perceived. It's legendary, of course. It's a big deal. But here in the wrestling world, I mean, I have to stay loyal to my niche, I guess. I don't know. If you disagree, feel free to. But I've never gone to the Kentucky Derby myself, so I can't really speak to that. And again, Ronda winning the SC title, I mean, it's a big deal. It's her first title since she left WWE in 2019. So I think that's very buzzworthy. I don't know how long people were talking about her win in the first place. That like after this week, it'll turn more into her reign. And the Derby win, I would imagine kind of similar. It's not going to necessarily. It's not going to last like a couple weeks, right? I would imagine like a week from now or so, it's going to be like, that happened. It's a big deal, but like the lasting power, I guess. Joseph points out the horse race is less exciting than Raw, and that's extremely hard to do. I don't want to knock it. I'm sure people are into it. Like it has has its own fans. I'm not here to knock the Kentucky Derby by any means, but Eddie points out, moving forward here, speaking of those next 4 weeks, Hell in a Cell, just 4 weeks from now, he says Hell in a Cell in Chicago will be fire, especially with the crowd. I think that's fair. Chicago is always a good wrestling crowd, so it's good that they got that show for it. Hopefully the card will be fitting for the hot crowd, but something that wasn't necessarily not fitting for what I thought was a pretty hot crowd tonight was the second to last match here, Happy Corbin versus Madcap Moss. This was probably my least important and least favorite match on the card here. No knocking the talent involved. Both guys are great. Robert and I were talking about on the SmackDown show. Happy Corbin's very talented. Madcap Moss very talented. Two very talented individuals. The gimmicks just really aren't it for me right now. Especially Madcap Moss, that he's still doing the Madcap Moss thing, even though he's not Happy Corbin's like jokester buddy anymore. Like he's still doing crappy jokes, or now he's actually trying to be funny. Like, I don't know. He's still wearing the suspenders. Like, I think that as soon as the second that he gets rid of the name and ideally the getup, the better. But right now I'm having a bit of a hard time taking him seriously. Nesha says that she's happy Madcap won. Now give him a wardrobe change. To me, ideally a name change. But I'm glad he's won. Kind of like almost, I think they kind of had to give him the win. Like, they're clearly rolling with him. They're clearly trying to establish him as a big star. So definitely a good win for him. Benjamin A. Jones wondering when he can watch the replay on Peacock. Is it not instantaneous? Or actually, I feel like it's not. Because I remember it may have been SummerSlam or something. I think SummerSlam was on a Saturday or something, and I wasn't watching live. But then I think I tried tuning in at like 10 p.m. or something, and it was still going, and I couldn't watch the replay yet. I would say at the very latest, try it tomorrow morning. That sounds like way too late. I would say maybe like 8 a.m. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I don't know. I feel like by now they feel pretty set in their ways with Peacock. So I don't know if they're going to change that. I agree with Benjamin saying that the WWE Network was better. I agree. I always prefer that much better than Peacock. But we've adjusted. You have to do what you got to do. DJ says that'll be available for replay tomorrow. That would be Monday morning, 2 a.m. Central Time. I do not know when the time version is, especially Benjamin. I don't know where you are, but there you go. Thank you, DJ, for the help there. But yeah, I thought this match was fine. Wasn't digging the story. Again, the gimmick's not particularly great here. But Joseph, was some positivity here. So Madcap, great in the ring. It's a ridiculous gimmick though. But Moss, as a performer, can go. I would agree. And again, as soon as he drops the gimmick, I think he could actually be a pretty promising star. And agreeing, so Madcap has potential. They just need to change everything in his current gimmick. He says the problem with WWE is building a new star like on the serious side. Like they like to build like comedic guys or like fan favorites or little like goofy or like little whatever. But like they're kind of struggling to build really top stars maybe in that sense. So I agree. But Madcap won here. It's a big win for him. Baron Corbin, former King of the Ring winner, former I don't even know what was I think he was a U.S. champion. He's been a featured star for quite a while now, so that's a big deal. It's a big deal for Madcap to get a win like that. Where this goes, I don't know. I should say Madcap won with a sunset flip, so I think even if it's on SmackDown, Happy Corbin definitely has every reason to challenge for a rematch because Madcap didn't really. I mean, he beat him, but it's not like he. I don't know. It was not very decisive. It felt like not like a fluke, like an inside cradle win a fluke. This was like a a little less than decisive here. DJ points out Corbin's getting more and more skilled every day. He broke out a senton tonight. He never does that. Of course. Eddie points out Corbin won the Money in the Bank. He just unfortunately it didn't work out for him. But no, he's definitely had a lot of accolades here. So everything kind of short of being a world champion, he's done. So it's definitely a big win for Madcap in that sense. So yeah, where this goes, I would say probably rematch. I do not want to see a drag on Hell in a Cell. I don't know if it has enough steam to get there. But no, a good win, a good showing from both guys. And again, I just hope that they get away from the Madcap thing because it's not really working for me. Again, we're talking about on the SmackDown show, Colin Corbin, like looking dressed like he was trying to go to a Pitbull cover band or whatever. it's a little goofy. But this was kind of they usually do this. You're kind of your cool down match right before the main event. Because in the main event was very, very good. This was, of course, this is a 6-man tag. The Bloodline versus RK Mick Bro, Roman Reigns and the Usos versus RK Bro and Drew McIntyre. Now, of course, this was supposed to be a tag team title unification match between RK Bro and the Usos. That didn't happen. Got changed to a 6-man, and I was bummed about that. I thought that was really taking away one of the few matches on the show that had stakes, and I like when matches matter. I like matches when there's something on the line. Nothing was on the line here, but it was a damn good match. Like all 6 guys are super talented. And you could expect a very good match in the first place, but then I think it was even better than that. This was a very, very good match, like one of the better 6-mans that I've seen in a while. That I can really recall, because you see 6-mans like pretty much every week on Raw. They're doing these things all the time, but this was like at least a step above that. Like all 6 guys are going they're going hard. They're really, really bringing their games. I liked it a lot. Brian says that the 6-man was fun. Eddie says the match was fire. All 6 guys shined. I liked it a lot. They was really bringing it. Drew McIntyre got slammed through a table by Roman Reigns. Riddle was he had like a great hot tag. Orton had a hot tag at one point. Brian said the crowd was hot for it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much every hot tag, the crowd just went crazy. Roman Reigns, he had a fun moment earlier on where he tagged in because Drew McIntyre wanted to face him, and he kind of walked around. And they tagged right back out, really kind of playing mind games. He was like, I call the shots. Roman Reigns is great. Nessus was a great main event. In the end, Riddle almost got the win when he RKO'd one of the Usos off the top rope, and then Reigns just floored him right with the spear, got the win. The Bloodline stands tall yet again. Nash points out that Drew was supposed to pin Roman to set up their potential match. I mean, that makes sense, right? I mean, I thought that's what they would do. We've been talking about this, I think, on pretty much both shows at this point. It's like, what are they going to do for Roman Reigns here? Are they going to do Drew? It feels like they're going to be going to a feud with Drew here because of this match. But now he didn't pin Drew, so I think that still makes sense. But having Drew get the pin tonight, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, and not do that. This, of course, we've been, again, trying to figure this out for a couple weeks now. It's like you've got Hell in a Cell just a couple weeks from now. You got Money in the Bank after that. You got SummerSlam after that. You've got the Clash at the Castle UK show after that. And again, I've been assuming we would get Roman versus Drew at Clash at the Castle. Maybe not. Maybe SummerSlam or something else. Tonight especially, though, and I've been thinking about this lately, but then tonight especially, the hot crowd, Orton being in the same match as Reigns, I'm like, man, it'd be really cool to have Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. That'd be a big match. Randy's on a great run right now. Yeah, this babyface run, really unlike anything we've seen from him, at least recently. So I'd like to see that. That'd be fun. Nestor says maybe do a triple threat match. That'd be good as well. But yeah, Eddie says maybe they'll do Randy versus Roman at Hell in a Cell. I think they could do that. I think that'll make a lot of sense. And then, spinning out this match tonight, and then that would allow them to kind of kick the can down the road for Roman and Drew. That'd be great. I mean, that's a story you don't need to work all that hard to tell. Roman versus Randy Orton. They have history. They're both 2 top stars. You don't really need to. You don't need to really do a lot to really get people excited for that match in the first place. So that'd be a pretty good stopgap, I would say. Eddie says, although we just got a reminder on SmackDown for a feud setup that got dropped a month ago. Roman versus Shinsuke Nakamura. They set that up like a month ago, and they never went back to it. And then they brought up on SmackDown this week, so they could easily do that too, especially as a one-off here. So I think I would like to see Randy versus Reigns more, but if they want to kind of hold off on that, since it could make sense, because again, they set up and didn't do anything with it. So I mean, it's worth pointing out Roman has not defended the title since he won on TV or on premium live events since he won the title at WrestleMania, or since he unified the titles at WrestleMania. So worth pointing out that I think his first defense is in that case his first TV defense is a pretty big deal. Randy Orton would definitely be a good one. I think Shinsuke would be a very good match as well. I just think Randy versus Roman would be a lot of fun. Maybe that'd be Money in the Bank. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool though. So DJ asks, are we getting Clash of the Castle on Peacock? I do believe it's on Peacock. I mean, that's a very, very big show for them. That's their first stadium show in the UK. I think they said in 30 years. So I'm sure that they'll be on Peacock. And that's I don't see why not. But yeah, I mean, going forward here, Reigns, definitely a couple options for him. And I guess I'm rooting for the Randy Orton thing, but also hoping for Shinsuke, because again, I don't like when feuds are just dropped out of nowhere. They set it up and didn't go anywhere with it. So I like both options. Again, maybe they'll do a one-off and get both out of the way. And then I don't know. And then for SummerSlam, maybe Cody Rhodes, maybe Drew McIntyre, or maybe McIntyre at Clash of Castle. They have options, and I always like to say it's good to have options. So Eddie with a comment about Roman Reigns' promo here from last night's house show. Talk about that in a minute. But overall here, WrestleMania Backlash, a darn good show. I was very pleasantly impressed. Like I'll admit it. My fiance asked me like 3 times today if I was excited for this show, and I was like, no, not really. Like the build has not been good. And you always know the matches are going to be good. You always know the matches are going to be good. But for me, I am more excited, and I tend to enjoy stuff more when I'm really invested in the story. So, with not a great build for it, I was like not really feeling it. And then the show over delivered. So I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would. But like to me, the winning recipe, it's like, okay, give me really good matches, but give me a good story heading into it. That's what it's not asking for a lot. And WWE does it sometimes. There are times where it happens, and just unfortunately sometimes it's not as often as we would hope. So overall, definitely a very solid show. I would say like even the almost match, I enjoyed that more than I thought it would. Didn't love Madcap and Madcap and Happy Corbin here, but having like one kind of weak point for a show. Not bad. And again, usually I feel like I'm pretty harsh on WWE these days. So enjoying the show like overall, like pretty much start to finish. I really can't complain all that much. I really can't complain all that much about that. I would go for like a pretty darn solid 7 tonight. And maybe even that's too low. Maybe like a 7.3. I liked it. Nash says almost winning was a surprise. Brian says he enjoyed Backlash. The matches lived up. I'll say the matches lived up, and in some cases even exceeded my expectations. So it's a win-win. And that's just a 7.5. There you go. A very solid show. Yeah, more of this, please. If Hell in a Cell is at this level, I'll be very happy with that as well. But we got an 8.3 from DJ, an 8 from Brian Everett here. So a darn good show. That brings us to we're talking about Roman Reigns here. Now he generated a lot of, if not controversy, at least conversation last night at a house show in my home state of Trenton. He was at a live show and he was talking about how he might not be coming back, or to Trenton specifically, and a very clear reference to like a new chapter of his career, and saying that very clearly his potential move to Hollywood. And a lot of people were very concerned about that. They're like, oh my gosh, is Roman leaving? What's going to happen? Is he going to leave WWE? Oh, blah, 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 blah. And admittedly, I didn't see about that last night. I saw about it this morning. So we got Eddie asking about that. He says, will he leave WWE for Hollywood? Apparently, his contract with WWE expires next April. He's not going to leave WWE. I don't think he's going to leave. He might have... like a Rock or John Cena thing where he goes away for a little bit. Fightful Select earlier today reported that let me look at it right here. So basically, I'm not going to give it away because it's a paid service. But basically, WWE officials / people within the company have no reason to think he's going to leave anytime soon. He's factored in the plans, heavily to be figured in the plans. Everything's kind of centered around him, that they want to try and accommodate him, work with him, and incentivize him to stay with WWE, even as he transitions to Hollywood. So I do not think Roman Reigns is leaving. Leaving in the sense that he's not going to leave, period. Like The Rock left. Like I should say The Rock did Hollywood first, then he came back, and then he left first for several years. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he might be doing a movie and like taking time off. And National points out he needs a break. The man's been the champion for like over 600 days at this point, or whatever it is. Like, and he at this point now, especially after since they've gone back to touring. Pretty much every house show, day in, day out, pretty much, a very, very heavy schedule. Most episodes of TV, most premium live events. Like the man absolutely deserves a break. So National points out over 600 days, crazy. He's been like carrying the company in a lot of ways, at least for me, I would say, carrying the company, or at least like representing the company at a very, very top level. Amazing run. If you listen to the SmackDown show, I'm always saying I'm a big fan of the work he's doing. So like, I don't think he's going to leave. I think he might take time off, whatever that might be, a couple months. I don't know. He's not going to leave, at least not right now. Like he's still very much in his prime. I don't think he's going to leave. I think he might be doing both for a while. But I think that promo was a reference to, maybe he's going to be start dialing back a little bit, not doing every house show, not doing TV. And he already does miss TV some weeks, not missing in terms of like missing the show, like no showing, but missing in terms of taking a week off, and as he deserves to. And that's when it's just time for vacation. I mean, yeah, the man's got, like, again, so many house shows, so many TV shows, premium line events. Like, that's got to be very, very hard. Traveling pretty much every day. The man has a family. So I imagine, like, not saying it's going to happen right now. He's still a champion. But I imagine, like, the time will come. He'll take time off, and he deserves it so much. Well, he will be missed because the flip side of this is that if/when he does leave, at least sitting here today, WWE has other stars. They've got guys like Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes now. Those are the biggest. Kevin Owens, maybe in a different way. I think he's one of the best guys they've got, but they haven't really treated him like a top star in some ways. But when Roman does leave, again, what short term and long term, they don't really have that an equal replacements. Like, you can't have Roman leave and then say, okay, X will very easily fill in for him. No, like, there's a very clear drop off from Roman to the next guy. You know who the next guy is? Cody, maybe Seth Rollins, maybe Randy in a different way. Very, very much a veteran, elder statesman at this point. Beyond that, like, Kevin Owens, kind of. There really isn't that guy at the next level, but. Eddie with a very, very good point here. For that reason, maybe with all these rumors and concerns and the buzz about Roman maybe going to Hollywood, if/when it happens, it's definitely time. I would even say past time for WWE to start building up that next star, whoever it might be. Nestor says, give it to Sami Zayn, make Sami Zayn a champion. Sami Zayn is a national treasure. He's amazing. Big fan of his. I always want to see him. I want him to get pushed more than he is. I'll at least say that. I don't know if they'll make it the world champion, but I wouldn't be against it. No, certainly not. Benjamin, I mean, overlook Drew McIntyre. Of course, Drew McIntyre, another top star. Benjamin says Drew could win the titles here at maybe Clash in the Castle. And DJ points out that maybe they'll have the Reigns McIntyre match at Clash of the Castle because McIntyre will be heavily favored. Well, of course, it's in the UK. He's a Scottish warrior, of course. But Benjamin points out maybe Gunther. Gunther will be fun. I mean, he could be an absolute powerhouse. It's like, old school. He reminds me of like this old school, like 80s, like, the stereotypical foreign heel, like used to get with like Ivan Koloff and stuff like that. It's like very, very old name, but something kind of like that, very like old school like that. But the jury's still on him. I don't know if we're going to get Gunther to that level, let alone in time for Clash of the Castle or anything. But yeah, if anything, this discourse about Roman Reigns potentially leaving and stuff like that definitely is. And people are treating this like they need to build up somebody like now, because like when the time comes, they need somebody to step up like that. And because again, they have stars. They have people that that main event shows that look like superstars, that carry themselves like superstars. But Roman Reigns, I mean, it's literally, as his teacher says, greatest on a different level. Like, he's at another level. DJ points out that Roman won't leave because WWE acknowledges him. I mean, again, I have to think WWE will do everything they possibly can to convince him to stay. So, whatever they might look like, I don't know. I think they're already treating him very well. He's treated like the top star, wins most of the time. Not that really matters, but like I think he's been the best booked guy on the roster since he came back as a tribal chief. It hasn't been perfect, but like his character work, his promos, some of the feuds have been good. I think it's been all around very successful for him. So again, I think sitting here today, we're fine. In terms of like Roman being here, Roman being the top star, and being the champion. But then again, this talk about what comes next, it is concerning. Because again, I think in some ways they had the same problem with John Cena, and like maybe the peak years of John Cena's full time run, they didn't really have that clear next guy. Once Roman Reigns showed up, and they started building him up in that way, kind of. But then Roman didn't get to where he is now until the Tribal Chief character, and that was just 2020. So I think they should definitely really start kind of thinking about that next guy. Nesh points out there's always Brock. I mean, there is if they throw enough money at him, but at the same time, Brock it's like semi-retired. He's only going to come back for maybe a couple matches here and there. Like he's not that next guy. Like we're talking about, they need the next Roman Reigns. They need the next guy that's going to be doing all the house shows, most TVs, most premium events, and they don't really have the guy right now. Joseph points out, of course, unfortunately, I've myself have thought many a time Big E should be that guy, and unfortunately, Big E's very, very unfortunate injury, I think, has probably affected plans like that, where they probably could have built him up to be the next guy, and now he's out for who even knows how long with an injury. It's a shame. It's a shame. DJ points out, there's a rumor back in the day or at least a report that Riddle was supposed to win the Royal Rumble this year and get a big push. Maybe that's indicative that they might think of him as someone they could push in that way. I think it's possible, but I don't know if I see him at that level. Granted, he's very popular. People seem to get behind and rally around him, but Riddle and Roman Reigns, that, I don't know about that. Maybe it's as a short-term kind of thing, but I think they could push him as a main eventer. I'm not saying that, but to be the next Roman Reigns, I don't know about that. Next points out maybe Kofi Kingston. Hey, I love Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston is great. SmackDown this week, that tables match, I thought that was great. I thought he really reminded me wow, this guy is amazing. He can really go. But Kofi, I think he's almost 40 at this point. He's been around for a long time. They could easily give him another title run. But again, the next guy, not just the next champion. I mean the next guy you can build your company around for ideally the next 5 years. I don't know if that's Kofi. He's a renowned, respected veteran. That's been around for so long now. Riddle, maybe at least he's younger in terms of he hasn't been there nearly as long. Probably got several more years in him, but don't know about that. Braun Breaker, I saw this going around a lot today. People talking about this potential for Roman to either leave or take time off. Braun Breaker, if all goes well, could very well be a top star. He looks like one, has a great presence. We haven't really seen what he can do on the main roster yet, so we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. We saw him on Raw briefly, but in terms of actually getting pushed on the main roster, that's very much a variable at this point. I don't know. DJ, I like the idea as well. You give it to Xavier Woods, maybe push Xavier Woods, complete the New Day trifecta of WWE champions. I think he deserves it. I think Xavier Woods is great. I don't know if WWE sees him in that way, again, as that next guy, Roman Reigns level top star. But he's great. I love Xavier Woods. Next without Solo Sikoa. That's fine. It could be anybody. Anybody we're seeing down on NXT 2.0 that's really thriving and shining so far. I don't see why not. Again, Braun Breaker definitely stands out. Carmelo Hayes, very promising story down there. Solo, maybe it is a little too early, as DJ points out. But people he's very popular in NXT 2.0. People are chanting for him pretty much universally. People seem to really like him. So maybe down the road we'll see. Ironically, the bloodline, literally keep it in the bloodline with Solo Sikoa. Makes sense. But again, I feel like it's definitely that's a problem for the future. I think for now, everything's fine. Roman Reigns is here. He's not going to be leaving tomorrow. There's definitely some concern for the bigger picture, of course. That's what we're talking about. But I think they do have some promising stars for that future. Nesh points out, you got Braun, you got Solo, other guys. Maybe not future, but Cody Rhodes could pretty much be the face of the company for a couple of years. I don't know exactly how long he's going to be with the company, but he could definitely be that top guy for a while. Well, not as long as, maybe not. I don't think he's going to have a Roman Reigns run of being the face of the company for several years, but being, a top guy for, a couple of years. Cody's already 36, so I don't know. We'll see. But definitely food for thought here, and that'll be something fascinating to see as we continue on here to Hell in a Cell, just a couple weeks away, to SummerSlam, obviously the next big show. That's when we usually see some big stars get made in some ways. So we'll wait and see what happens. National points out LA Knight's still out there. Big fan of LA Knight, but unfortunately, it seems like he's more of a manager these days. He's been managing people in SmackDown Dark matches, so as much as I enjoy LA Knight, I think he's great. It seems like that's their more planned use for him at this point. So we'll wait and see. Because I think he could be a top star. I think he's great. But it seems like that's more what they're kind of framing him as at this point. So we'll wait and see. One of the news piece here, DJ points out that now both Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae are free agents. She left the company. I think that was Friday, I believe. It was at some point late this past week. Great for her. I mean, it makes sense. She's of course on maternity leave right now. What her future holds, I don't know. I think she'll be out for a little while, taking care of her baby Quill with Johnny there, enjoying the time as a family as they obviously deserve, to say the obvious. But she's an amazing talent. I always enjoyed her in NXT. I think she has a very bright future, whatever she decides to do. I think she'd be great in AEW. I think she'd be great in Impact. Anywhere could use talented wrestlers. Like that's the bottom line. I think she's great. I hope to see her and Johnny Gargano show up somewhere at some point very soon. I'm a huge fan of Johnny Gargano. I miss him. I hope he comes back to wrestling soon, but obviously he's enjoying his time with his family as he deserves. So we'll wait and see on that one. But speaking of, movers and shakers here, DJ points out also that Mia Yim returned to the wrestling world in Spotlight here last night. She's done a couple independent shows, but pretty much in the Spotlight for the first time since her release in November. She showed up at Impact last night and she has signed with them, so she'll be with Impact for the next several months. So good for her. She did not get a fair shake of it in WWE. Had a pretty good run in NXT, but not with the main roster at all. Definitely big shame with that one. She's very, very talented, so I'm glad to see her doing great things with Impact. So good for her. Waiting to see how that goes. But yeah, it's always cool, seeing people shine when maybe they did not get the chance to do so in WWE. So shout out to Mia Yim. They're very, very cool for that. And like I said, we'll wait and see what happens with Candice LeRae. And I mean, any number of other free agents are very, very promising right now. So we'll wait and see on that one. But as always, onward we go. This was the WrestleMania Backlash post show. I'll be back here on Monday night for Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Raw post show. John Clark, my usual co-host, still recovering from his appendectomy. So like he said, he'll hopefully be able to join us for NXT on Tuesday. Definitely a shout out to John. Hopefully he's feeling all right. He says he's feeling like mostly back to normal, but just wants to take a little time to get back to 100%. So hopefully he'll be back for the NXT show on Tuesday. Otherwise, schedule permitting, and it should be this week, Robert and I will be back on Friday for Friday Night SmackDown, the SmackDown post show. And otherwise, two Dynamite Dudes on the Rampage cover all things AEW. Make sure to check them out. On top of that, a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys. We got Bill Pritchard recently interviewed Moose, former Impact World Champions, B-Ball Mike Bailey. Lots of good Impact coverage lately, specifically, but lots of great stuff. Always coming at you for WrestleZone because that's what we do, to try to give you guys a very varied flow of content to enjoy the wrestling. That's what we do here. So with that being said, folks, thank you all so much for listening tonight, coming together to talk about WrestleMania Backlash. A show that was definitely above expectations. I definitely enjoyed it. So, and I hope you did as well. I hope it always means a lot. You coming together to enjoy the wrestling world here, because as I always say, the one outside, very scary place, but we're coming together to do one thing above all others, and that, my friends, is to enjoy wrestling.